Today, I have the great pleasure of speaking not with one, but two entrepreneurs. I'm speaking with Alexa Berube and Heather Stupi. Together, they founded the company Reposite, which is revolutionizing the meetings and event industry with AI. Fascinating conversation with two amazing entrepreneurs. Hello, and welcome to a new episode of the Business of Meeting podcast. And today, over 200 episodes that I had the pleasure of recording, this is the very first time I'm having two entrepreneurs together, and you're going to hear they're absolutely amazing. I'm going to be speaking with Alexa Berube and Heather Stupi, and they are the founder of the company Reposite, which is absolutely crushing and revolutionizing the meetings and event industry. We're going to talk about them. We're going to talk about their journey. And as we are recording today, the 8th of March, they just reminded me before I hit record that it is the International Women's Day. So it's perfect timing on everything. Alexa and Heather, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today.
Thank you for having us. We're excited to be here.
That's awesome. I would like to start first with your individual journey. One can start and then the other. And then obviously I want to know how you came together and how you decided to start the company. So who wants to start?
I can kick it off. We have a good amount of overlap in our careers, so it should make it pretty easy, but it's definitely a good founding story, I would say, not super typical. So I'm Alexa. I grew up in New Hampshire. I ended up going to school out west. I went to Santa Clara University, and then my whole career has been spent in the tech sales startup ecosystem. And so my first job out of college was in San Francisco. I worked for a company called Main Street Hub. We did social media management for small businesses all across the US. So I was making 100, 120 cold calls a day, really just dove right into it. I worked my way up the chain there. So about a year into that role, they moved me to New York City, which is where I live now. You can see it in the background. And I just worked my way up to eventually becoming the director of sales there. The company got acquired by GoDaddy. And just around that time, I was looking for my next opportunity. And so got approached by a company called Vettery, which totally changed my life in more ways than one. But that is where I met Heather. So I joined there pretty early on, built the whole sales team and infrastructure there. So everything from like the SDR function to our account executives to our post-sale account management. That was a hiring marketplace. And so some similar mechanics that we applied from our learnings at Vettery to Reposite. It was in a different industry. And so stayed there up through our acquisition, which was in 2018. We got acquired by the Adecco Group for a little bit over 110 million. I stayed on post acquisition for about a year. And that's when Heather and I went off and started our own. But I will reverse it back to her to kind of fill in her background before we go to the next step.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm Heather. My background is very different. The only part of the businesses that I haven't touched has been sales. So I started my career off investment banking, and then I joined Vettery as the fourth employee there and spent the first 2 years focusing mostly on product, like working directly with the designers and the engineers and getting user feedback and implementing it and testing everything out and making sure we were building the right thing. And then as the company started scaling, I moved more formally into the head of operations role. So I was helping the business to launch new markets, making sure that we can acquire new candidates every single week. We were bringing on thousands of candidates a week and hundreds of hiring managers into the platform every month. So definitely a big learning experience. We grew very quickly. And so wherever the business needed to scale, I was usually behind that, working on that project. And Alexa and I have always worked really well together because, like I said, the only part of the business I never touched was sales. And so we have complementary skill sets. We enjoy working together. And so when it was time for us to move on from Vettery, and we both knew we wanted to build our own thing, we were just very natural partners to do that with.
That's awesome. And you both make it sound like, yeah, it's normal. We just did that. And then we started. Take us a little bit about the thinking process. So you work together in another company, you enjoy working with each other. but a lot of people are in that situation. So what decided you to start the company and to focus specifically on what you're doing today?
Yeah, I can start with that. I think it's a lot of people try to start companies with what I feel like is just like their best friends. Like I've seen that happen so many times throughout the course of my career. And I feel like sometimes maybe it works, but I've seen it crash and burn a lot of times too. I think Heather and I had 3+ years of working together, like day in and day out on pretty mission critical projects within the company. And so you really like test those boundaries. And then again, like at the core of what we're capable of doing, like I can't do most of what she does. She can't do most of what I do. So like we truly need each other and the skills just do mesh so well together. I think like a big thank you to Brett and Adam, who were the co-founders of Vettery. I think Heather, you can probably echo this too, but they always push me to want more and do more. I have a very clear memory with Brett, who was one of the co-founders of, he's like, what would you want to do after this? I'm like, maybe like sales consulting. And he looked like a really disappointed dad. He was like, no, you're capable of so much more. Like you have what it takes to build a business. Like you're an entrepreneur. You should really think about doing that. And they would always like kind of feed that to me, like you're capable, you can do this. And I think we both kind of had enough confidence through their leadership and seeing that business grow so successfully that we were like, all right, we're going to go do this on our own now. So that's kind of where the momentum came into play, I would say.
Heather, what do you say?
Well, I joined Vettery because I wanted to learn how to build a business. And I don't think everyone has that. I think it's scary to build a business. So I wanted to learn from people who were doing it. And I wanted to see the whole process from beginning to end. And so that's why I joined a 4-person startup. Like everyone thought I was crazy when I left my cushy banking job, but like that's what I wanted to do. And I got the exact experience I was looking for. So I think entrepreneurship looks different to different people depending on what they want, what their journey is. Mine is different from Alexa. Like I always knew I wanted to do this and I just wanted to learn from people that I really respected and admired and still do. So once I got that experience, I wanted to go off and I was itching to do it myself. But like Alexa said, I didn't have all the skills and it's hard for one person to have all the skills. And so it was just a perfect match for us, I think.
Absolutely. And I was raised in Belgium and talking about all the skills. My education was more find your strength and your weaknesses and work on your weaknesses. Until one day I said, no, I'm not going to spend time improving my weaknesses. I'm going to partner with people whose strengths are my weaknesses. So you just both mentioned 2 things that I think is essential. The first one is to find mentor or to find people that believe in you and that are seeing things in yourself that maybe you don't see it. And the second thing, which quite frankly, it's everything I've experienced myself, but the people I work with and the people I see that are successful, is that they find the yin and the yang. And you are both saying and very clearly stating that you have 2 completely different experiences. And I would offer that one without the other, you would not be as successful as you are today. Is it fair to say that?
150%, yes.
Okay. So again, going back to you decide that you want to start a company together. You could have started any company. So how do you define the market that you wanted to tackle? How come with the name Reposite? And how did you decide that this is the industry that you wanted to be in?
Heather, you want to take that?
Yeah. But between Vettery and Reposite, we actually had a different venture that we started with that we thought would just be fun. Because at the time, we didn't have a problem to solve. We had just fixed some major problems in the recruiting industry, but outside of recruiting, we didn't have any other industries that we knew well had issues or problems or needs in terms of technology. And so we started a company that was providing immersive experiences for the travel industry. And as an activity provider for the travel industry, we learned very quickly how big the industry was. And we're not talking about, just individual, travel advisors or smaller groups. Really, we saw this whole industry of big professional travel planning companies and event planning companies that wanted to put us in every itinerary. And so we learned very quickly how just widespread this industry was, but also it was really difficult to work with these guys because they didn't have technology to support them. And even if we were talking to a local mom and pop versus a big travel company doing hundreds of millions of dollars worth of trips and itineraries a year. They were all basically working out of Excel spreadsheets and folders and Dropbox. And coming from a tech background and having that marketplace experience to connect two different users together, we really felt like that same model from Vettery could apply to the travel industry, especially tailoring towards groups. So we just became obsessed with this idea. We couldn't stop thinking about it. The more we learned about it, the more we realized that it really was not just underserved. Nobody was serving. It was like zero serving of technology were available to people in this space. And so we just went all in. I got to hire my favorite engineers from Vettery, and we built a team around them. And we started building a marketplace to connect travel and event planners with the suppliers, not just activities, but hotels, restaurants, transportation companies, logistics, catering, you name it. If it can go into an itinerary, they can get group leads from the travel and event professionals.
Awesome. So very, very clear idea. Congratulations. And then I'm going to turn to the salesperson. Just give us a quick pitch of what is exactly Reposite doing. Let's say that I own a meeting planning company. How can I simplify my work with using the company?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we work with thousands of meeting and event planners really across the world to simplify mostly their sourcing process through AI-driven sourcing. And so if you are a professional meeting and event planner, we feel like there's a very serious gap in the industry for you to be able to book restaurants, transportation options, venues, standalone venues, catering, activities, you name it. There's certainly solutions out there for group hotel bookings. We all know CVen and Groups 360 and HopSkip and all those big names. But outside of that technology, there's truly nothing to support a planner to fill out the rest of the program, whether it's an incentive or a corporate offsite that they're planning, or they just need a really nice dinner after a board meeting. All of that was being done through manual emails, private event forms, countless phone calls. All their databases for those ancillary services, a lot of planners call them, lives in spreadsheets. So they also don't have a system for tracking their preferred vendors. And
if I can interrupt you one more thing, and chasing people that are not giving you the information that you need to have.
Hours and hours of like, can I please have a quote? Are you available? What's going on? So we streamline that whole process with Reposite. A meeting or event planner can log in, they create their event or meeting within the system. So how many people, where are you going? We integrate with Google's API. So we are a global sourcing platform. They can select which categories they're sourcing across. So maybe they need the restaurant, they need a team building activity, and they need transportation to take them around. They select that, they fill out the relevant fields, they post that live. And that's where our AI matching algorithm comes into play. So it's scanning all the data points against the RFP that they posted with our vast vendor network, which is roughly over 35,000 offerings today. And then they're served up those matches, and that gets smarter over time the more they use it. So think of like a Netflix or Spotify Discover Weekly, where it's really learning your preferences based on the user activity. And then they can pull all of those options into a really beautiful client-facing proposal, which happens almost instantly through a ChatGPT integration. And then they also have their preferred supplier database in there too, with everything like tagged, categorized, and organized, and they can track all their commissions and costing, everything related to those vendors in one centralized repository, which is where the name comes from.
Amazing. And what is the integration with ChatGPT that you're having?
Yeah, so we integrate with ChatGPT on the proposal builder. So imagine you're a planner, you get 3 different restaurant options back, 5 different activities. Instead of needing to what most people do now is like try to copy and paste that into a PowerPoint or hack it together in some kind of email for their client to see it all. The ChatGPT integration scans the conversation back and forth between you and the vendor. It'll pull in like all the key information and details and pull a description of the vendor. So like a little paragraph about the restaurant. All the planner has to do is like click a button that says add to proposal, and then it pulls like all the writing, all the prompts together in one kind of synchronized little paragraph with an image that can be shipped off to the client. So it's almost instant. Pretty cool.
Absolutely amazing. Well done. Heather, I have more question on the financial aspect. And you were a startup, now you're a fast-growing company. How challenging it is for a startup in tech in our industry, how challenging it is for a women-led startup to fundraise. Because all my female friends are telling me there is such a discrimination in VC and private equity towards women-led companies. And you are wonderfully successful, which is great to hear. But tell us a little bit what you think about all that.
Yeah, I both love and hate the question because I feel it comes up a lot. But I think if I were to focus on all the barriers that I have, it would drive me crazy. And so I just choose not to focus on all the barriers. Is it hard? Yeah. Do I think it's hard for everyone? Absolutely. I will say, I think we are in a really good spot to be able to have those conversations because Alexa and I have confidence in what we're building. We have confidence in each other. And we're also building a space that nobody else is building in, and it's really big. And I think that's what investors really get tied to. And when we pitch to investors, we let the numbers speak for themselves. So we don't have to try to be somebody or be something that we're not. We say, we are leading this, we are capable to lead this, and look at our track record so far. And we get a lot of no's, just like everybody else. But I think part of the struggle with anybody fundraising is that you have to build long-term relationships because it's not just about the money. It's about the mentorship that you get and also the extra advice that people from different perspectives can offer to us. And so when we have conversations, it's a two-way street. We are seeing who's interested in us, but we're also gauging, do we want to work with this person? Do we want to be able to give them updates? And do we think that they can help us in our journey too? And if we can find that, it's a really good match. And I would say we've been lucky, but it's taken a lot of hard work along the way. So I'm not going to say that, but we have the right partners today. And we're constantly talking to new people just to understand what else we're not thinking of that can help us grow and just be the biggest company we can be.
Love it. Every time I hear the word luck, I kind of smile because successful people are working hard to open the opportunities of luck to be present, which is a totally different mindset. So what is the goal? What is the ultimate goal? What is the vision of the company in the next 5 years?
I think we want to build like the biggest company we possibly can in this space. Like I feel pretty fortunate that this group meetings and events space is still relatively untouched by technology. Like we're doing demos with meeting and event planners all day, every day. And it's still like, hey, what's your system of record for booking the restaurants, for booking the venues? And it's still like we're competing against Google Sheets and Excel and Dropbox and email. And it's truly a real pain point for people. And so I think our goal is just to get this in front of as many people as quickly as possible so that we can ultimately make meeting and event planners' lives a whole lot easier and enable them to open up their book of business, take on more clients, get more competitive commissionable rates, save really valuable time. So even if they don't want to grow their business, maybe they can have more time with their family or their friends or just enjoy themselves because these very manual aspects of the job we truly believe can be replaced by AI and technology.
Yeah, absolutely. And you touch on something which is very important for anyone that I know, including myself, is having time more for family or friends or the things that matters to you.
Yeah.
And on that note, whether you're a solopreneur or you have a company existing for 10 years, I found it crazy that few people actually focusing on sales and marketing. Yeah. So can you take us back to your experience before Reposite and what you're applying now and inspire people? Said, what are the 2 or 3 things that they should be thinking about sales and marketing in their company today? So
this might be an unpopular opinion, but I'm a huge fan of cold calling. Like, I don't think cold calling's dead. I think people pick up the phone, especially in this industry. And it drives me nuts when I see my team sending like 10 emails to someone who's not getting back to you. Like my first question is always like, did you pick up the phone and call them? Because calling can be so effective. And I do think this business is very, very relationship driven. And so we make a lot of calls, like we pound the pavement, we get in front of the people that we want. And we've been really, really successful at that through every organization that I've run. I even remember like very early on with the veterinary founders are like, calling, I don't know if cold calling will work here. I'm like, it's definitely going to work. Let's do it. And then we were able to scale the sales team really, really effectively there. So that's definitely a big piece for us. I think also just like thought leadership in general is a very good play, whether you're doing that through LinkedIn or speaking at events or just kind of like making your presence known. I think especially where we're operating, technology in this space is fairly new. Like I said, it's not really like our pitches is like, hey, move off this technology onto ours. It's move off of these very manual processes and start to embrace technology. And the first barrier is just educating people that like it's not scary. It is really easy to use. It is going to make your life easier. And so I do a lot of talks on just like, what is AI? It's not scary. It's not going to take your job. And just like, how can you use that, even Reposite aside, to make your life easier? And I think doing that kind of thought leadership and just like building those trusts and relationships with people has gone a really, really long way. So that's and then we're kind of crazy. We do a lot of guerrilla marketing and we're always very scrappy with the way that we approach things. And so I won't give away all the trade secrets, but that's our kind of approach. Heather, I don't know if you want to add anything on that. Heather is also a HubSpot and marketing guru on the side too. So she definitely helps me on the marketing front a lot too.
I help with the marketing automation. So a lot of what we do is especially for our existing users and the ones that are just learning about our product, we use different triggers of where they are in their journey to make sure they get the right information at the right time. So if they're checking out something about one particular tool, then we'll send them like a demo and a how-to on how to use it. The product itself is pretty intuitive, I would say, but it does help to have supporting material hit you just at the right time instead of just kind of randomly out of the blue. So when it comes to the automation part, that's my jam.
And I can see you smile when you talk about it. So that you're both passionate about what you do. I love it. When you're talking about AI and fear, I remember at the beginning, a few years ago, people say, oh, it's going to replace jobs. And yeah, well, it's going to replace jobs and it's going to create new jobs as well, which is, I think, the most important part if you look at it. The same way when you had the first football game that were broadcast on TV, people say, oh, nobody's going to come to the stadium. But actually, they wanted to come because they saw it.
Yeah.
What do you tell people, and especially owners of business, that they can do with AI? Because the way I look at it is that is the greatest time ever to be in business, because you can now focus what your brain does best, and the most less intellectual thing of taking time can be automated.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think the best way to think about AI is not in terms of the trendy way that everyone else is thinking about it. When we are building our product, we think about where can we add the most value for the least amount of effort. Because when you could do that for somebody, especially if they're coming from a process that they're used to, that they've gone through, that's tedious, and you just transform that experience with, like Alexa talked about with our proposal tool, the click of a button, that's a moment of magic for users. And so when I think about implementing AI, it's really about how do you create a moment of magic? You don't even have to tell them that it's AI. You just add a button that says add to proposal and you take all that work away. And they're comparing in their heads to what that, the hour-long process would have been for them to, piece that thing together. We also use AI internally to help us, find new suppliers to join the network. We're also working on a project right now. It's not implemented yet, but to streamline the communication between the planners and the suppliers. So instead of manually working back on the RFP one by one, to use AI to leverage and speed up that conversation to get to the answers and the actual proposal faster. Nobody has done that. And for us to be able to release that, which we're going to be releasing that later this year, it's going to be a magic moment. And so we're constantly thinking about how to create more of those and serve them up to the users in a way that's not like in their face, but it supports their existing workflows so that they never want to go back to what they used to do.
Love it.
And I would just I try to tell all meeting and event planners, like just at least get the free version of ChatGPT and Google Gemini, and anything that you do that is like manual or not requiring strategic thinking. Once you learn how to use those tools, just say like, could I do this through ChatGPT? Like the amount of time I used to spend trying to come up with a subject line for an email I wrote or a creative title for an event that we're hosting or the theme, like it can really be a great jumping off point to just get the juices flowing, whether it is like image generation for landing pages, content generation, email marketing, sales templates, like you name it. It has so much data it's pulling off of in terms of best practices, and it can really get to know like your tone and your voice over time too. And I know Heather uses it a lot for just like data entry and reformatting. Like again, anything that doesn't require your strategic brain can likely be done through AI today. So you can just save yourself so many hours.
Absolutely.
I would say definitely the hardest part about AI for me, and it's still something I work through every day, is exactly what Alexa said, how to think about using it in new use cases that I haven't done it before. You have to basically retrain your brain on how to do it. And so that's why when we think about integrating AI in our product, we don't want our users to have to think about it. We want it to complement what they already think their workflow is going to be, so that at the end of the day, boom, it just happened. It's like, wow. So we're constantly trying to push use cases and, okay, can we use ChatGPT for this, or can we use AI for this? And usually the answer is yes, if you think about it creatively.
You know, I'm listening to both of you. I have to tell you, it's the first time we meet, really. But I'm so excited hearing the two of you, because you have such a complementary approach and obviously a big brain. So that's phenomenal. Really, I mean it. I think you're changing lives as well. I keep telling to all the people I'm coaching that are on their business, stop doing the things that somebody else should be doing and focus on what is your added. And that's what AI is doing. Now, I have a question for you that I love. One clip I'm sure you've seen of Jeff Bezos, who's been asked, what is going to change in 10 years? And his answer is, yeah, everybody's want to know what's going to change in 10 years. I want to know what is not going to change in 10 years so I can build my strategy on that. What would you say to the business owners and people in our industry that are planning meetings and experiences, integrating AIs for sure, but what is not going to change in the future that actually AI can help, but that is something that is not going to change in our industry? What would that be?
That's a good question. I am under the belief that like there will always be a need for a meeting and event planner. There's so many complex details when it comes to planning like a large event that I think AI can take it pretty far, but to truly be able to like know the company's like goals, mission, strategy, and create an event that fully supports that with all the details managed, I think there's always going to be a need for those professional meeting and event planners. So I'm pretty heavy on that. Like, I don't think it's going to take our jobs or eliminate the industry by any means. I just think it's going to fuel us to be able to accomplish a whole lot more with like less time. That's my take. I could be wrong, but that is my current viewpoint.
Heather?
Yeah, I would take that one step further and say, I think that today the industry for meeting and events is very heavy on relationships. And I think that that will not go away, because that's what brings the human touch to an event and a meeting or an itinerary, anything like that. I will say that there's a lot that happens in the background of the day-to-day for these planners that they will not have to do anymore with AI and with these tools. And so they'll be able to spend more of their time doing what they love, which is creating those like human touch personalization. I think you'll see a lot more of that supported through AI. They'll be able to do more. They'll be able to take on more events. They'll be able to be more available for their clients. And I think that's really going to free people up to do more of what they love and have all the tedious stuff in the background handle itself and actually provide a better experience with their guidance.
I could not agree more. I fully agree with you. That's the vision I have for our industry. And I would say even more after the pandemic, with AI, with technology, people want to meet, people want to come together. I remember years ago, we had an MPI board meeting in Dallas and we were having a break. And I see all those people dressed like Star Trek characters. What the hell is going on? It started as an online community, but people want to meet.
Yeah.
So you are a tech company. You have people all over the world that you are dealing with. Obviously, there's the mix between the remote, the hybrid, the in-person. what is the culture in your company in terms of people coming together or not? How often can you bring people together? It's like this is a follow-up of the previous question. And what would you advise people to do in this new world of that we're living in?
Yeah, we are like the definition of hybrid, I would say. So we do have a physical office in New York City. I'd say majority of our sales team is based in this area. I've always been a big fan of, again, if you're like cold calling and kind of doing a lot of outreach, like being in the trenches and doing that together is special, I think. And so we're in office Tuesday through Thursday, and then we work from home Monday and Friday, but the rest of our team is fully remote. So we have team members in California, in Portland, and Virginia, and Atlanta, and Miami, really all over. And so Heather and I have done our best to just like try to do at least an annual offsite where we bring everyone together. And then we do go to a lot of like industry events and trade shows. And so I try to pick different groups of people to kind of go to those so that they can spend those couple days at IMAX or at WEC or something like that, really like spending more quality time together to get to know each other. And then Heather, I'll let you jump in too, but we do a lot virtually too. So we have a lot of virtual team building activities on our platform. So we're always using that to source, and we'll do a cookie making class. We'll send supplies and do a cocktail making class all together. We did origami, I think, a few months back, which was pretty cool. So we do try to create that space for us all to come together, even if it is virtually.
Yeah. And then just day to day, like working with each other, I would never recommend in person or hybrid or remote specifically to everybody across the board. I think it's really depends on the team dynamics and what tools you have available. I think it requires a much more concerted effort to make a team feel cohesive when you're not always in person. And so we're constantly thinking about how do we bridge that gap when you're not physically there? How do you make sure that you can have tools to support communication and policies and procedures and just workflows that tap other people in so that especially when somebody new gets onboarded, they know who to go to or what the workflows are. So I would definitely say internal operational tool set is really important when making that decision. But I think anything's possible. It just depends on what the makeup of your team is and what your goals are.
I think we've seen through the platform too, because we're obviously collecting so much data as the marketplace has grown. We've seen a huge uptick in corporate offsites for hybrid and remote teams. And so that's been really cool to see. And I think just like really good for the business in general. I think most companies that we see using the platform regularly are doing those on like a quarterly basis, which has been really awesome to just see the team come together. And then in one place, they can book their hotel for that. They can book their team building activities, their meeting space for the different breakout sessions, their transportation, their restaurants. And so that's definitely a very popular segment for us. We focus a lot on that.
I'm not surprised, and I'm so happy to hear it, because that's, I think, what is not changing, that people want to come together. Now you have all this data, which provide you phenomenal information. And for those who are interested, I think on your website, you can go and download, was it a white paper, or how do you call it?
Yeah, we have an AI white paper. So all best practices with AI if you want to learn the basics.
And all the tools that and I keep learning every day, but from Opus Clip and Synthesia to Crystal Nose to, of course, ChatGPT and all those tools. Like the one with LinkedIn now and that I've been testing was not Plaxio, or something absolutely amazing that's giving you all your best posts and the best posts of other people based on the topics. Absolutely inspiring. Do you have a list of suggested tools that when you do your workshop, you're talking about?
Yeah, I have a very long list. We spend a lot of time in most of these on the basics and the most popular ones, because I do think you got to get the foundation down before you progress. So I'm a huge fan of Gemini, which was previously Bard. So that's like Google's ChatGPT. It's really cool. It's connected to Google's whole data set. And so it has really accurate information, at least for our industry, on restaurants, on flight data, on hotel data. I found it to be the most accurate in that segment. And then Synthesia, you mentioned, that one's a cool one that we usually focus on a pretty good amount. Zenus is another big one that we talk about in terms of like actual real-time facial analysis and data tracking at trade shows. which is cool. And then all the big tools, so like Zoom and LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook, they're all building AI into their existing products. So we do spend a good amount of time of just walking through like, hey, look what LinkedIn launched. Can now just use AI to write your posts within the tool without having to leave the experience. And I think that's the trend we're going to keep seeing more and more of, is every product, like Heather said, we do as well, is just thinking, how can we incorporate AI into our existing experience to make our users' lives more efficient?
Heather, nothing to add?
I would say that Alexa goes to a lot of events to talk about AI and how to leverage AI in meetings and events and just travel itineraries in general. A lot of those topics are discussed in pretty intense detail in the white paper. So to your point, if anyone wants to learn more about that, definitely download that, because it's filled with all of the knowledge that we have, and we constantly update it to make sure that it's always on the cutting edge.
I know you're both extremely busy, and once again, I'm very grateful that you took the time to be here for this conversation. I want to ask one last question to both of you. In 1 year, when we meet in person with a bottle of champagne, what are we going to celebrate?
Oh, that's a good question.
I'm a big fan of not ever really needing a reason to celebrate. I think seriously, every day you wake up and you get to do what you love is a reason to celebrate. And so I'm lucky to be able to do that with Alexa, surrounded by a team that I just really admire. I think everyone brings their own strengths, and it's fun to watch the company grow. It's fun to watch the new types of clients we're bringing on, and get a window into the types of events and things that they're planning. But yeah, I say when we meet in a year, let's just pop the champagne no matter what.
That's awesome.
That
Alexa?
Echo Heather on this one.
It's the greatest answer. I've been asking this question many, many times as the greatest answer.
I can't top that. That was good.
Well, Heather, Alexa, Heather, thank you so much for taking the time. Everybody will be watching your journey with a lot of excitement, and it's really great to see what you're building. And I hope to meet you in person in the future. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Alexa and Heather, thank you so much for taking the time. And that's absolutely fascinating story that you have. And I love the complementarity between your skills, and which I'm sure it's major part of the success of Reposite. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to connect with me, please do so on LinkedIn. And if you enjoyed this conversation, please share it with your network. Thank you. Bye-bye.